Welcome to the UK Fantasy Football Show, Goal's weekly podcast that discusses many of football fans' favourite pastime. We'll be reacting to see how our teams did in Game Week 7, wading into the murky waters of Manchester United's season, and revealing our teams for Game Week 8. This week, Dave, Sam and I are joined by Goal Senior Editor Mark Buckingham, who's back for a second stint. But first up, let's look at how our teams performed over the weekend. So Dave, I scored once again after a bit of a down week last week. His wild card is gradually coming into fruition. He got 59 points. McTominay, of all players,
my boy,
seemed to smash it for you.
Yeah, 9 points for McTominay.
That
Excellent return.
Yeah.
Cracking goal as well. What a strike. I mean, it's a bit of a deflection, wasn't it? I was worried they were going to give it as an own goal, you know? They got VAR involved. God knows what was going to happen. Someone handballed it or something. No goal, but yeah.
We're going to get stuck into Man United later, but McTominay, I think it's fair to say, is a shining light in that team right now.
I think he's a brilliant player, and embodies the leadership that just you'd hope any player would have. I thought it was a bananas decision by Dave to actually pick him for a fantasy football perspective. But as I texted him last night, I'm happy for him to have the points for watching McTominay smash.
Have you never had him in your team?
Nope. I've named my team after him, but I've never picked him.
That shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah,
You should have to put him in your team if you've got if you've named it after him. But yeah, Sterling got 7 points as well, which is steady.
Got a good captain pick, didn't you?
Yeah, De Bruyne was the captain, so obviously he returned with 18, which is fantastic. Mane only got 3, so my Liverpool players let me down a little bit, although it was nice. They got a clean sheet, didn't they? Yeah, 1-0 against Sheffield United. So
is it Van Dijk? Yeah.
Van Dijk had 8, which is good, but Firmino 2. They struggled against Sheffield United, actually, didn't they? And at one point I was thinking, great, I've cursed Mane now. Obviously Firmino's not scoring against him either. It's a bit frustrating from that perspective, because that's where the rest of the points were hopefully going to come from. That fixture looked like a good one for Liverpool, but yeah, clean sheet, can't really argue. So yeah, steady kind of around the rest of the team other than McTominay and De Bruyne. Tammy Abraham didn't score but picked up 2 points. He was my vice captain. Thought he might bag against Brighton.
Yeah, I had Abraham as my captain, and I thought there'd be something there. But you can make a reasonably concrete argument at the moment that Abraham can only score against championship teams.
He's got a few of them coming up though. Chelsea have a very tasty run. I was looking before this. I think the next 5 games they've got a decent
Southampton fixtures. Away again. It's a proper Premier League team.
Theoretically, yeah.
I know, but communism was good in theory. Always remember that.
Newcastle at home after that. Burnley, Watford, Crystal Palace. I mean, yeah, okay, Premier League teams for the past couple of years, but it's an easy run, you would say. I would say.
I'm keeping him in, and I'll probably have him as captain this week as well.
Yeah. So, Dave, you closed the points on Sam then. So, our latest standings are Sam top on 388 points after his 46-point haul this week. You're second, Dave, on 375 points. And then I'm languishing in third on 354 points.
It's a bit closer than I realised that, actually. I thought it was still about 25, 30 ahead. But
it's getting exciting. Yeah. For us 3, anyway.
Still ahead.
In the public UK Fantasy Football Show League, Alex Hammond remains top. I think he's been top for about 5 weeks now, this guy.
I think we need evidence this guy actually exists.
I know, he's not got in touch with us yet. I really want him to get in touch with us on Twitter. Let us know who you are, and we want to get some of your insight, I guess, onto this show. So he's on 494 points now, over 100 points more than any of us. But God. He's got a couple of people hot on his tail. So Sani Salisu and Hassan Firaz both got over 70 points this week, and they're within 20 points of him now. So could potentially have some competition up there at the top.
Exciting league there.
Yeah, I thought I'd run through the dream team as well quickly, because I don't think I ever do this, but it's worth looking at who got the most points last week. So Gaia in goal for Crystal Palace. Doherty, Pereira, Evans in defence. Doherty got 15 points last week.
Bloody hell.
He's the highest scorer of the week. Jorginho, Wijnaldum, Milivojevic and Willian in midfield. Oh, and Mahrez as well. Some unconventional ones there. They all got 10 points apart from Jorginho, got 11. And then up front, King and Vardy have both got 12 points. Good week for Vardy. You don't have many more, though, do you?
No, I don't. Thanks for pointing that out. He's another one of the hat-trick heroes that I chopped and subsequently got 3 goals in a game.
Yeah.
So he joins Bernardo Silva. Should have a board for these guys, actually. Just like, if anyone wants cutting from this team, I can guarantee them a hat-trick.
Dave's inspiration list.
Exactly.
Mahrez is only 8.5 million, and he was really, really good against Everton.
He's looked really good all season. He's
Yeah.
like almost like Leicester Mahrez is back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just always hard to know, is he going to be dropped for the next game? I think he's only started 4 games this season so far.
He goes for every player that now
Yeah.
for City.
Aguero was dropped again this weekend. God damn it.
I know.
So
that was brilliant. But I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. Well, I think Sterling will play. We don't know what's happened with De Bruyne in his injury, although as we can call him Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah.
God,
Jesus Christ.
I'm so glad you did that.
I thought about that in the car this morning and thought, can I keep that locked up until the afternoon?
Can we stick that on the clip on social? The video.
I guess so. We want to embarrass ourselves, yeah.
Yeah. No, just Sam. That's all.
So anyway, whether he plays or not is I think a huge marker on how City perform. The 2 matches he's sort of missed most of the season against
Norwich.
and he plays Shakhtar. They were arguably their poorest games of the season, so KDB is City essentially.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Listeners, if you want to join our league and test yourself against us all season long, the code to type in on the FPL website is NHC4WZ. How are you getting along so far this season, Mark? You having a good season?
I had a good week last week. 71 points last week,
bloody hell.
which
Smashed us all.
made up for an alarming level of mediocrity before that. But yeah, no, I had a good week because I've got Patricio and Bolly from Wolves, so double clean sheets there.
Nice.
Vardy. I've stuck
nice.
with him all season, so that's
Good
something.
choice.
Loyal,
Good choice.
Yeah.
unlike Dave.
Well, I did get rid of Callum Wilson just before he started scoring as well. So, and Milivojevic finally scored a penalty.
He did. Last, he will be missing next game.
Yeah, that's true.
7 games it took him to get 5 yellow cards.
That is
It's
impressive.
impressive.
It really is.
I think you
got
got to
hand it him.
applaud that.
Yeah, there's a real commitment to that. Wants a little break before the international break.
I mean, I don't claim to watch very much, if any, Crystal Palace, if I'm honest. Have they all just been for like just niggly little fouls, or is he a bit of a shithouse?
I think
It's worth
Isn't that
it.
the same thing? Really?
Yeah.
If it's worth it, if it's like you've pulled someone back and just to stop them, like Callum Chambers' foul and Daniel James, that's a yellow card. That's a good yellow card to take. But if it's just a little bit of backbiting or a pansy tackle in the
5 yellow cards says to me that they're a constant shithouse.
He's got issues,
Yeah,
hasn't he?
yeah. In 7 games. Let's move on then. So each week in between our game week review and preview, we're going to be tackling a topic that will be discussed among FPL managers far and wide. So last week we had a VAR. This week we've got another potentially contentious topic in Manchester United. So they drew 1-1 with Arsenal on Monday, ensuring their worst ever start to a Premier League season. If that feels familiar, it's because last season they also were in that sort of zone. They equalled their worst record after 7 games, but they've beaten it this year with 9 points, languishing in 10th. So after a storming 4-0 win at the start of the season, what on earth is going wrong? Sam, you watch them week in, week out. Where do you think their biggest problem or problems lie?
the football pitch. That is where the problems lie. But also all surrounding areas of Old Trafford and parts of London where they hold commercial offices. So the club's in trouble. They bought well this summer. All 3 players have arguably been their best 3 players of the season. I think you can add McTominay into that as well. But they got rid of quite a few players. They got rid of a lot of players. And Lukaku, and even if you put Sanchez in that mix, given he had a decent copper, you've lost 2 strikers. Oh, look, your other 2 strikers are injured now. It's a sad sign when you were relying on Jesse Lingard to be your false 9 and lead your team to, well, tepidness, really. It was never going to be something that could be fixed in one summer, and I think it would be incredibly just naive to think that you could go and buy 10 players like you can on Football Manager and they'd bed in straight away, because they wouldn't. But they've bought 3 good players. It's a process. I do find it a little bit disconcerting that I was worried after they drew 1-1 on Monday that Burnley and Palace might be running away from us now. I mean, I'm putting Man United in the same category as West Ham and Burnley and Palace, as those are our rivals at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I see for your future. I see Mystic Miles here. I see a sort of an AC Milan-esque future for Man United, where like they focus very heavily on the fact that they're a big club and they have a big club mentality and they have loads of money. But if you don't actually work on success, then ultimately that's a very short-term way of playing the numbers. I think, ultimately you're not going to get new fans from being a team like what Manchester United are right now. If you're an 18-year-old or an 8-year-old kid watching the Premier League right now, do you support that shower of shite that is Manchester United on the football pitch, or do you look at like Liverpool where you have Mane, Salah, Firmino, Klopp?
But it goes deeper than that. As obviously we've discussed many a time just in our day jobs. It's the FIFA element as well. I tried playing as United on FIFA 20 on Friday, and someone had to come over in the office and go, "Is everything all right? Are you losing?" Because I was effing and blinding. The game hadn't started.
He was just picking the team.
I was just going through the squad.
Yeah. But I mean, I'd say when I look at the United squad and I look at some of the recent signings, well, maybe not this season, but like previously, there is a little bit of a product over performance thing going on at United, isn't there? Like the signings, the players they tend to bring in and the players that they've got on the books are the kind of like the fashionable ones and the ones that will be part of the United products. For instance, your Paul Pogba's and your Jesse Lingard's and your Marcus Rashford's, even Martial, I suppose, to a degree. They're all like quite cool. Like, I mean, I don't think the kids are necessarily put off by these players.
How do you know what cool is, by the way?
Well, I don't, but they seem to do the right things on social, and people talk about them, and kids emulate them and everything like that. Yeah. It's like I'd be saying to anyone who, I mean, if a kid's going, "I want to be Paul Pogba," why? Like, do you watch him play? Have you seen that United team? What's there to be so? Like, why would you idolise him? They idolise him because he's like just a bit of an icon and he does and says the right things. And I feel a bit like United are quite good in that area. They've brought, from a product perspective, I know we were talking about football being a product last week, but from a product perspective, they do all the right things and they are the big club. But when it comes to performance on the pitch, they can't make a team work. And isn't that part of the problem?
I think it's a natural element of when your goal is to finish not at the top, but to finish in the top 4. Aim for the moon. Oh, no, aim for the stars and land on the moon. Whatever crap saying that is. It's even worse. It's even better when you say it properly. That's, United, if they aim for top 4 and they miss it, it's Europa or nothing.
Because there's not it's not a tangible goal. Or is it a tangible goal? I suppose it is a tangible goal.
They should be able to get top 4 with the team they have and the money they're spending. They should be in top 4.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? They've spent money on players. They've brought, players in and, okay, Harry Maguire isn't a fashionable signing. That looks like a good signing from a performance perspective.
I think
Daniel James probably isn't, but...
Yeah. Well, I think you could say that about all 3 signings they made in the summer, that they're actually not product signings, if you like, and the players that you could build a bit of a foundation around. The issue is that, obviously, you've had years of mismanagement, both in terms of the manager in the dugout and at boardroom level as well. And the question is now, obviously, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got a vision, if you like, of the type of player he wants at United. The problem is, because the performances and results aren't actually very good, will the board actually stick with him to go through the process? Because like everybody says, it's going to take 2, 3, 4 transfer windows for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to bring in the constant level of player that he's currently been targeting. But if the results aren't good, then somebody else comes in and thinks, I don't want those type of players. And then you start again and
there's
again
that element,
and again.
And I think there's also who you can attract. So Sancho, I think, is a great example of a year and a half ago. You go, yeah, he's a natural Man United player. That's where he's going. Now, I think Sancho will be sat there going, I'm not joining them guys. No way. It's a backward step for him.
Yeah. But I think the other thing, actually, if you think about it, is having the proper vision. I mean, you look at Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, he had a vision of what he wanted and the type of players he wanted. And you actually look at Liverpool's key players now and look at the clubs where they've come from. Van Dijk's from Southampton, Mane's from Southampton, Salah's come from Roma, and Alisson's from Roma as well. So they're signing players from the type of clubs Man United would expect to sign players from, taking that step up, and how it used to be like, you look at players like Michael Carrick went from, stepping stone West Ham to Tottenham to Man United and that kind of thing. And maybe that's what Solskjaer is looking at, is thinking players who've performed in the Premier League consistently, the likes of Maguire, Wan-Bissaka. I mean, obviously Daniel James was only in the Championship, but 15 million essentially is peanuts these days, because Championship clubs are paying 15 million for players. He's the sort of player you can take a gamble on. He's got potential. So that in a way, there's no reason why Man United can't still sign players of good quality, make an impact. You're talking Van Dijk as the best centre-half in the world, Alisson, best goalkeeper in the world, Mane, one of the most devastating attackers in the world. So you're talking Man United, we should be looking at clubs like Leicester, even, obviously Southampton haven't got quite the same quality of player there now as they did when they had Van Dijk and Mane. But there's no reason why United can't sign those players, even given their current predicament, if you like. It's just about, have they got the right recruitment strategy in place?
I think it is that. I think it's a recruitment strategy. I think someone behind the scenes has got to have that vision that everyone else buys into. I don't think you can look at the manager and go, oh, this manager needs to build his own team. It needs to be someone above him who starts to build the team and starts the process, and then the manager slot in, and then you've already bedded in those few signings. It happened at Liverpool. They had a few of the right players, and then by the time Klopp had arrived, he could build on that. He had something to build on. I think at United it's the same, because there's such huge ships, these clubs. It's difficult for just one manager to come in and then make sweeping changes, and the guys are on huge contracts. They've got to make the right decisions now. Maguire is the kind of right decision, and Wan-Bissaka's probably the same. It gives something for managers who are... Solskjaer's not going to be there forever, is he? He's not going to be there for long. I don't think he's going to get a chance to build his own team, if you like, even if he does have his own philosophy, or whether it's just the United way, which is, okay, what is the United way?
Admirable, isn't it?
It's a load of bollocks. I mean, for me, it comes into two different strands. You have what you mentioned. You have the sort of club management side of things above the manager, but you also need to have the right manager in there. So for Man United, a year ago, you just said that the club management was a total mess, and they had a manager who was kind of working against that in Jose Mourinho. Got rid of Jose Mourinho, got Solskjaer in temporarily. Now he came in. It seemed like I thought it was a good temporary option. Gets fans morale up. You've got a club legend in there. Gives you time to find someone to get in the summer. They didn't do that. So now they're left with a manager who I don't think is good enough, really, for the top four of the Premier League. Like we mentioned, Jurgen Klopp. He's no Jurgen Klopp. Like, Jurgen Klopp is an inspirational manager who's got a history of success. Yeah. Solskjaer has neither of those things. And then also behind the scenes, it's still a mess. They still don't have a sporting director. So there's still... although,
that's where the problems lie.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it's still too early to tell with Solskjaer. I think you can... You can't classify him as being uninspirational, because we don't know. He doesn't come out with the funny jokes like Klopp, but that does not...
I just think he's working on shifting sand. I think it's a difficult gig for him.
It's an impossible gig for anyone.
Yeah. So I mean, it ain't gonna end well. It's like another club. It might have worked out better for him. Maybe, not one of the top Premier League clubs where success is expected, trophies are expected. I think, unfortunately, he is a United legend, and he will be given time because of that. But the fact he got the United job's shown that they've given him time, but now people are looking at the table going, what are Man United doing down there?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the results, and I've personally thought this all season, and this may give you your opportunity, Dave, to try and score some points on me. At least try, but I don't think they've played that badly. I think their actual league position so far is worse than it could be. Wolves, they should have beaten Wolves. Palace, good Lord, they should have beaten them. Southampton should always have beaten them. They beat Leicester. All right, West Ham, they were dreadful. Arsenal, probably should have beaten them as well.
You can't say that.
Of course I can say it.
Should have beaten them.
They peaked in the first game of the season.
I think that's pretty much it, as you've just said there. They peaked in the first game of the season, and the level of performance is essentially on a downward spiral.
Just like Solskjaer last season.
Because I think it's right that they were unlucky, especially not to beat Wolves and Southampton away. Palace, again, another missed penalty in that game as well, but the performance...
I forgot about that as I was making... Yeah, that.
Missed penalties at Wolves as well. But obviously the performance at West Ham in particular was... It's one of those, you can't really call it forgettable, because it kind of sticks in your mind of how bad it was, sort of thing. But
what do you reckon Solskjaer's wild card is then? How does he fix this up until the January transfer window?
I think his wild card, and again, obviously you don't know how good the young players are until you actually play them, but to at least give evidence or a sign that he knows what he's doing or what his vision is, play more of the youngsters, really, because what's the point of keep picking Juan Mata when he's not producing on the pitch?
Yeah, I'd set a
Nemanja Matic. What's the point? He's not going to. Matic isn't going to be a player who's there for the long term of Solskjaer's vision, if Solskjaer obviously stays for 2 years or something like that, pick Matic in the League Cup, the Europa League, fair enough, but in the Premier League, put one of the kids, and everybody raves about James Garner, give him a chance.
Yeah, I think you pretty much, I think we've got the same mindset there. I would be intrigued to see Tuanzebe played in midfield, just to see what he can do in there. Him and McTominay in the middle, and then allow Pogba to play at that number 10 role. Get him out of the midfield where he's got to be disciplined. Let him go and create, because no one else can. Let James run at people. I'd be tempted to bench Rashford.
I mean, I think you could put Rashford on the left wing.
That's a good idea. Actually, put him on the right wing. Put James on the left.
Yeah.
Martial up front. Boom.
Problem solved.
Solskjaer's going to be gone before Christmas. He can't fix this.
We've just told him how.
Well, he can try and do that.
I think that's a wicked idea.
But
the problem is he won't do it because it's too much of a risk. I think the managers, the reason managers pick the veterans is because they are better at following very specific instructions, and they feel worried that if they give a youngster too much responsibility, or too much instruction, they won't be able to follow it. Which is it goes against everything that should happen in football, really. Because I totally agree with you to get the youngsters on the pitch and it is a bit of a risk, but Sir Alex Ferguson did it at United with a raw young team, and sometimes it's nice.
But they had great players to play with.
That's the thing. I think Roy Keane made a very good point the other day when he was talking about like the class of '92 coming in and that season when they said, you can't win anything with kids, but the spine that they had around them, the kind of players, Schmeichel, Bruce, Pallister, Cantona, obviously Keane himself to bring those through. And who have you got now at United to help out those youngsters?
It's literally
Juan Mata.
Yeah, Beans, Lingard. I'm like, that's probably the worst thing. You think Lingard is, he's not 21.
He's mid-20s, isn't he?
He's 27. He's older than
unbelievable.
Pogba. He's older than Pogba.
I'm sure he gets older.
He's like Benjamin Button.
Yeah. So that is, that he should be that age. You'd think they are the king of the pitch, king of the dressing room, and everyone, all these young lads that are coming in, whether it's Chong or Gomez or Garner, are looking at Lingard going, "That's what I need to be." That's sad. That's sad and scary. Sod it too. If you want to terrify your kids, tell them that.
At least with Paul Pogba, they can look up to a player like Paul Pogba, who's a World Cup winner. Someone who's plied his trade at Juventus. He started out at United, didn't he? I mean, he must be an inspirational character to guys in the dressing room as well, even though his performances can be frustrating.
I think he will be. Apparently, the way Solskjaer spoke about him, he seems to be the dedicated professional, despite the fact he did openly say he wanted to leave. But he has acted like a professional. I don't know. I'm not in the changing rooms. He's a World Cup winner. I mean, Kante was the World Cup winner. Apart from the final, where Pogba was slightly better, only because Kante was poorly.
But then, I mean, Stefan Guivash was a World Cup winner, wasn't he?
Indeed, so, yes.
How much does it really mean?
Kleberson, was he another World Cup winner?
Yeah.
Kleberson, one of my favourites. So I asked on Twitter, our goal followers, what is Manchester United's one biggest problem holding them back right now? Got about 300 replies, which is decent. The top reply here that I'm seeing is Ed Woodward. I reckon that's a popular one for Man United fans to have a moan about. Trashford is one reply.
So childish. So childish. He's 21. He's 21. But I was talking with Pete Staunton the other day and about how poor Rashford has been these last few games, and both me and him were hand on heart thought he was going to be as good as, if not better than, Mbappe. I thought he had all the skill, all the ability. He just didn't quite have Mbappe's swagger. I thought as soon as he gets that, he will be better than Mbappe. Turns out I'm wrong once or twice. Okay.
You lost the faith.
You can't teach the swagger, can you? That's the thing. Mbappe's just got it, and I think it helps him. I think it makes him the player he is.
Oh, hugely.
And Rashford's
his little celebration. I think if you're 22 and under, a bloody good player, and you've got enough swagger that FIFA will give you your own celebration, that's a level up on your career trajectory.
Yeah, it is. It is nowadays. That's the way it is. I mean, even people that don't support United and England fans are willing Rashford to be that player because he's such a nice guy. He just seems like the total professional. He's got the flair on the pitch. You can see his burst of pace. Technically, he looks brilliant, but
just confidence looks shot.
Yeah.
But then I think if we watch Gnabry against Tottenham, he sort of the wide player gets the ball bummed over, and every one of his shots was hit with such conviction, and he knew what he was doing. And then Rashford, got played through against Arsenal, and he just dilly-dallied and fluffed his lines. I think it was even Socrates got back and tackled him. So, it's whether that's a mindset thing, you just can't take that extra step. Only time will tell, gentlemen.
It needs to be less English. Bit more flair, bit more like don't overthink it. Just go with it and bury the ball, and it's like so a lot of the players.
Is this you
like,
getting back to your football art?
Yeah, football is art. Football is art. So it just look. It looks a bit troubled, which is it's difficult to see a 21-year-old at such a big club kind of like falling short on that level, because I don't. And part of the problem is probably Man United, because he has been leaned on quite heavily by some of the managers there. Mourinho played him almost every match, didn't he?
What I'll say though in his favour, you look at the supply that Man City are getting in De Bruyne. You've got no one like that at Man United supplying him balls that he can score like De Bruyne would be. If he played for Man City, he'd score plenty more goals.
Yeah, if he was doing that Sterling role where he was just tapping the ball in
exactly,
5 yards out.
Yeah, living the dream really as a striker there, aren't you?
Yeah, his stats would be great.
Some more replies we've got here. Sir Alex Ferguson has been mentioned as the missing Sir Alex Ferguson. I mean, it's been a few years now, and that's been a problem.
Sorry, for those who obviously can't see my face, I just rolled my eyes. They almost fell out my head.
Someone said just picking one is the biggest problem. I guess that is the crux of it. There are so many issues here that it's because it's not really one thing you can solve. Like you could say, poor defensive issues or not able to score goals. It's quite a lot of different things that seem to be sort of adding up here into the Manchester United melee, and means they're not doing well this season. Basically, Glazers are mentioned quite a few times. Obsession with Manchester United and Liverpool, kind of understandable when they're doing so well though. Lots of different options there.
Yeah, and they're all pretty much true.
You got to play Liverpool game week 9, so
do we? Amazing! Can't wait.
That's going to be a fun match for you.
You've got the soft underbelly of Newcastle United though this weekend, who've only won once so far this season, 19th. Although it was against Spurs away, which is a match I did not see as winning at all. So.
Spurs, mate.
So we'll see how you get on in that one. Right, let's go through our teams then. Actually, before that, Mark's got his 1 week wonder team, so he has to pick a team to get as many points as possible from this one game week. The high score remains 64 points, which Charles Watts, our Arsenal correspondent, got a few weeks back. What team have you gone with, Mark?
So we can't just have my team from last week and those points, because that would give me 71.
Unfortunately not.
Okay. My team this week, I'm trying to load up on midfielders and forwards who'll score goals. And
good idea. That.
Wise.
Yeah, rather than spend too much on the defensive players this week. So I'm starting off with the idea that Everton are consistently inconsistent, and having scored 5 goals at Burnley last season, they're not going to score any this season at Burnley this week. So I'm going to have Nick Pope as my goalkeeper from Burnley, and also Eric Peters in the defence as well, and hope for a clean sheet, or like I say, hopefully Everton won't score 5 again. And Stekelenburg will remain my reserve goalkeeper because he's 4 million. The other 2 defenders who I'll actually have in the team are Zinchenko and Diop at West Ham, because I think West Ham are at home to Crystal Palace. West Ham have kept 3 clean sheets in the last 4 Premier League games. Don't see Palace scoring too many goals, really. And obviously City are at home to Wolves. Zinchenko, I would imagine he's going to start. Wolves obviously will have played Thursday night Europa League. City will have had an extra couple of days to recover. Obviously Wolves are probably the type of team that could actually have a bit of a go at Man City, unlike a lot of teams that go to the Etihad and sit back and just sort of wait to be rolled over.
I think they'll get pasted.
Yeah, with how Wolves have generally been this season in terms of backing up after the Europa League and stuff. That
Man City's home form as well is fearsome.
Yeah. In midfield, I'm going to have Raheem Sterling, because I've got him in my team that plays every week, if you like. And obviously with him having been substitute last week, I would imagine he'll be starting at the weekend.
He came off the bench in Europe as well, didn't he?
Yeah. That's it.
He's nailed on.
You would have thought if you've got to pick a player who's going to start in the Premier League on Sunday for City, especially their attacking players, Sterling to me would be the one. Sadio Mane as well in midfield. He's got a good record against Leicester, and I think as much as a guarantee you can have of points, and he seems like a good fit. I'm going to take a gamble on Dan James. Part of me thinks Newcastle.
He's a little bit loco, this guy.
I know. Part of me thinks Newcastle Man United is going to be 0-0 or even minus scoring because they're so poor, generally speaking, in terms of Newcastle just poor in general. Man United not got a very good record recently in terms of goals, but if James can get in behind the defence with his pace early on, there's a possibility that he could continue his good start to the season. And the other player I'm having in midfield is John McGinn from Aston Villa. He scored twice away from home already this season. 3 goals in total, I think it is.
Cheap and cheerful as well.
Reasonably cheap and cheerful, yeah. Villa at Norwich, so it's the kind of game where he might be able to make an impact. I did consider having Jorginho because he's only 5 million, and obviously he's now confirmed as Chelsea's penalty taker. But again, it's a bit like sort of Milivojevic at Crystal Palace. It's how many penalties are you actually going to take a season? And then up front, my 3 strikers in the team are Aubameyang. I think I know he obviously has had a great start to the season, but Arsenal at home to Bournemouth this weekend, I think it's worth taking a chance he'll continue his scoring form. Jamie Vardy, would stick with him. He's got a very good record against Liverpool, tends to score in sort of the majority of games he's played against Liverpool, home and away as well, I think. So he's worth having. And Haller, is that how you pronounce it, at West Ham?
Yeah, he'll do.
He'll do. Again, Chris, I think the way West Ham have been playing the last few weeks, especially at home, they should be capable of scoring 2 or 3 against Crystal Palace, and hopefully he'll score those 2 or 3.
Yep.
I still don't think he's that good.
Who's your captain out of that?
I will have Sterling as my captain out of that. But it's not about whether he's that good or not. It's if he scores goals. He's got 3 and 6 so far, so that's a decent enough return.
Your other 3 subs?
My other 3 subs are Prudel at Watford and Stearman at Sheffield United, because they're both 4 million and are never going to play.
Correct.
And
that's the right way to go about it, because producer Mo, when he did his last week, had Iwobi on the bench. I was like, that's just a waste of money.
Yeah. And my other sub is Cleverley at Watford, because he's 4.9 million.
Dirt cheap.
Yeah.
That looks like a good team. Sterling as captain could do some damage there, I reckon. We'll have to see if he can high score 64. Other scores we've had are 55, 53, 52, 41. 41's the lowest we've got actually so far. I reckon you'll get at least more than that. It was a poor week. Sam, do you want to go through your actual team for this week?
Yes.
Any changes?
I don't think so. I'm still umming and ahhing about Zinchenko. I do need to get rid of him at some stage. Mendy played again in Europe, didn't he? So I think Zinchenko will likely get a go, but I think this is one of his last weeks. So Heaton, Zinchenko, Maguire, Matip, midfield of Sterling, Mane, De Bruyne, Martial is gonna stay, Cantwell, and then Abraham and Callum Wilson up front. So I'm not going to make a change.
Saving that transfer.
I think so, yeah.
Is that Abraham captain? Abraham's
going to be captain. May switch to Sterling, and then Lundstrom as my first sub. My darling Lundstrom.
He gets you so many points as that first sub coming off your bench.
How many has he got now? 34 points.
It's outrageous.
Colossal.
He's in the top. Is he a dream team player? Has he got a little star next to him?
Yeah.
Has he? What a player. What a man. There's always one every year, isn't there? From one of the promoted teams. Who
John,
comes up.
if you're listening, give me a call. You're amazing.
Dave, who's in your team this week?
I'm only at the moment. I've only got one confirmed change, which is taking Timmy Krul out of goal because he's crocked. So he's probably going to be replaced by one of Mark's recommendations. There actually Pope in goal.
He's in my team. Hero.
Yeah, good selection actually. Kind of like bit succinct with Peters being in the back 3 as well there for me. So it'll be Pope in goal, Stecklenberg on the bench still. Peters, Walker, Van Dijk, Gibson and Rico, that's my defensive lineup. And then leaving Mane, Sterling, McTominay, Cantwell in there. De Bruyne is the only one that's got a question mark over him because of his injury, his groin injury, but realistically, I don't think it'd be wise to sub him out and then try and get him back in. I don't know, this is what I've got to work out. Because then I've got Firmino, Abraham and Ayew up front. So do I look at getting De Bruyne out? Obviously, that frees up quite a bit of cash, and then getting back in at a later date. I mean, this is probably a lot of people are going to be
decide today, do you?
What, mate?
Put him on the spot.
I'm looking for some advice. I came here for advice.
Wait till Friday.
I would stick with him, definitely. If you, I don't know how long have you had him? You've had him long enough to make a bit of money on him.
I've only had him a couple of weeks, I think, haven't I?
Okay, well, you still probably made a bit there because he keeps going up in price.
He's up to 9.9 now, isn't he?
So you've probably gained about 0.2 there, or at least he's gone up 0.2. So if you get him back, then he's going to cost you an extra 0.2, and you'll want him back.
Exactly. I know. I want him back. Yeah,
for the sake of one game.
Yeah.
So I've got 2 transfers, so I can even just put Pope in, leave the other transfer, or I can put Pope in and maybe leave midfield and then look at whether it's worth trying to mix up the forwards a bit.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely annoyed with myself for taking Vardy out because I've had him in my team before when I've been less tinkery and I've just left the team for the season, and I've found that the points have racked up, and it's people like him that they rack up the points. And I wish I'd had him instead of Abraham now, actually, because even though I've put Abraham in, I don't feel like he is, a steady point scorer because there's that uncertainty around him. With him being young and with it being his first season in the Premier League, I'm a bit like, actually, I wish I still had Vardy there because I feel like Leicester are doing really well. They're just starting to, they've slotted into that. They are that team that we expected at the start of the season now.
Yeah.
They look a lot more like that.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season Vardy scored 20 goals in the Premier League.
So you've got him in your team, haven't you? I'd say, guys, I know he doesn't always look like he's going to score goals, but he does, and don't lose faith with him. Keep him in.
I am on the other side of that coin there.
Go on him.
I like Abraham. I'd keep him in. I think that Chelsea's run of games is pretty decent. I think Leicester's, off the top of my head, isn't quite as fortuitous, I guess you'd call it. They have fixtures coming up against.
So they got Liverpool, haven't they? Next?
Liverpool, yeah. They've got 3 after that actually look decent. Burnley, Southampton, Palace, and they've got Arsenal. And then they have a real decent run of games actually: Brighton, Everton, Watford, Villa, Norwich. So Vardy could definitely get some joy there. I wouldn't put him in this week though because Liverpool away. I mean, it's probably probably the hardest fixture you can have in the season. That or Man City away.
Depends if you discount that red, like Mark was saying about his record against Liverpool before. I know we've talked about that before. Or does it matter if teams are playing against it? He's got a really good record against Liverpool. So, who knows? I'd be tempted to, if fantasy football managers thinking about, well, I mean, they're probably not going to be because he's just got a hat trick. But if you're thinking about getting rid of him, then don't. But because I did, and I feel I regret that. I regret that now.
Okay, who are your forwards then? Abraham.
Ayu, you said.
Ayu and Firmino.
All right, okay. 2 of the
stick with us. Yeah.
My team then. I've made 2 changes.
Okay.
I've ditched Digne, the Everton defender, who did well for me in the early parts of the season, but Everton are just don't look that great. So at 6.1 million, I think he was. I just thought there's better money to be found elsewhere. So I threw in Otamendi, took Sam's advice 2 weeks late, because I think he got loads of points the week before last. Didn't obviously rack up as many this week, but with Man City's decent run of games, they have Wolves at home, Crystal Palace away, and then Villa and Southampton at home, coming up in the next 4 Premier League games. So Otamendi is pretty much the last centre-back standing, sort of proper centre-back standing for Man City. He's guaranteed to play, one of the few that isn't going to get rotated. Yeah. So I think he's worth a bit of a punt. So 5.4 million, 5.5 million I think I got him for. So it's not too bad.
Oh, that's good.
Bit of a saving. My other transfer is Tomori, the Chelsea defender. Not someone I expected to be thrown in there, but 4.6 million. He seems to be impressing in Frank Lampard's young side. It's hard to know if he'll stay in there. Obviously, Chelsea have had some defensive injuries, but they obviously got a clean sheet for the first time in the league this weekend, I think, unless I'm forgetting a match against Brighton. And yeah, I just see him as a player who I think he scored earlier on in the season and his sort of league debut for them this season. And yeah, I just think he's for 4.6 million, he offers a lot of value. Again, saved a bit of money, chopping off, I think it was Tarkowski, who I ditched because I was doubling up on Burnley defensive and goalkeeper players before. But with Chelsea's run of games, Southampton, Newcastle, Burnley, Watford, Palace, there's some joy to potentially be had if he stays starting. He's just so much cheaper than the other Chelsea defensive options that I thought it was worth a bit of a punt. So we'll see how that pans out.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up then. Dave, Sam, Mark, thanks very much for joining us today. Listeners, you can get in touch by tweeting your fantasy football thoughts with the hashtag UKFFS. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, follow on Spotify, or however you listen to podcasts on your favourite platform. Leave a review if you liked it, and if you didn't, what are you still doing here? Check out Goal for your daily dose of football news from the Premier League and around the world. Thanks for listening.